As an author, speaker, and certified life coach, Regal T. Cameron is living proof that no matter what happens in life, she still comes out on top. She is known as Raw and Real Regal, helping women to heal the child within so the adult can live. Regal is a survivor of child sexual abuse, mental abuse by her mother, and rape while serving in the military. It is her passion to empower women and men to face their fears, let go of their anger, and push past their pain. Regal is a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces Regular Army, serving 5.5 years, and a federal civil servant for 10 years. Furthermore, she received an associate's degree in liberal arts from St. Leo's University and a bachelor's degree from Strayer University in business administration, concentration management, graduating magna cum laude with a 3.9 GPA. Regal is the owner of RTC Destiny Company, where she serves as a speaker and life coach. Her mission is to help women heal the child within so the adult can live. And her definition of broken means being in a state of anger, unforgiveness, and pain, not realizing your current state of mind. And she is going to come on and share about her business with RT Destiny, and I hope that she's going to talk a little bit about what she experienced growing up, and especially within the military. I would love to find out a little bit more of that and how that was handled. So we're going to bring Regal onto the line.
Good evening. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for having me on your platform.
You're welcome.
Yes. And I'll give you a little bit about what happened to me in the military, and also the moment I realized I was broken. So I'll go ahead and start with the moment that I realized I was broken, and then I'll talk a little bit about what happened to me in the Army. So back in 1999, I was 29 years old. I had been out of the military about 2 years, and I was working at a vitamin network marketing company as in the customer service section of the company in Sanford, Florida. I had moved back home from Savannah, Georgia. I moved back to Florida for a man, which women, please never ever do that. Never ever do that, especially if he ain't put a ring on it, because that's just not good. So that was a mistake that I made, and I learned from that. Well, back to my story. Normally, while I'm at lunch, when I was working at the network marketing company, I would write down my emotions, my feelings, and just to kind of release. And at the time, I was just writing poetry. I wasn't really being, I wasn't really trying to find myself. I was just kind of just writing. And one particular day at lunchtime, instead of me writing, I decided to read what I wrote. And when I started reading what I wrote, I realized that I was angry. I realized that I was broken. I realized that I was still angry at my mother from childhood for telling me, "I wish I never would have had you." At the moment she said that to me, something in my spirit broke. Because at that point, I was 16 years old. And when she said that to me, I was literally almost, if not very close to flunking out of high school, because my mother divorced my stepfather at the age of 10. So and she retired early, which I don't know why she retired early, but she retired early from her job and took all of her savings out. And people pretty much kind of just was her friend and used her, and she gave out loans and people never paid her back. So we ended up struggling because my stepfather did not help my mom take care of my brother, and my father was out of the picture. So I got a job working at McDonald's. So literally I was working as a high school student 6 days a week, and I was going to school 5 days a week. So literally, I'm helping my mother pay the light bill, the phone bill, the car note, the car insurance at the age of 16. And my name ain't on nothing. And I was literally flunking out of school because I couldn't study. I was too tired. I was falling asleep in class. So when I brought my report card home, my report card had 6 D's and an F. And when she saw that, that's when she said, I wish I never would have had you. And all I could think in my mind is, why would she say that to me when I'm literally helping her to pay bills, to stay above water? And that's the response that I get. I'm like, did she not realize that I'm working all the time and I'm falling asleep and not really being able to study? So it was really hurtful. And then I also realized that I was angry at men because I got pregnant at 18 and at 21. And each time I got an abortion because both men, one man said to me, he said, well, if you got pregnant, would you have it? And of course, as a young girl, you say, yeah, I'm going to have it. But I'm thinking to myself, nah, I ain't going to get pregnant. Me, stupid, dumb, naive, using the pull-out method, not knowing, dummy, you can get pregnant. And my mother hadn't told me about what guys will tell you to get in your pants. So I fell victim and I got pregnant. And what hurt me was that the guy that I got pregnant from, he was a sophomore in college, and it was my senior year of high school. So I'm like, you have gone off to live your life. You're doing your thing at FAMU. And here I am stuck in little itty bitty Winter Haven pregnant with your child, and my life is over. So I made the decision to have an abortion because I was like, I felt trapped. I felt like, whoa, is this how this is going to be? I felt manipulated. I felt hurt. I was just devastated. And the second time it happened, the guy said, well, I'm sterile. I can't get you pregnant. Women, don't ever believe them when they tell you they can't get you pregnant because they sterile. That's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Don't believe that. And me, dummy, didn't know. Still hadn't gotten any knowledge from my mom about what game that men will spit on you. And I got pregnant. And I was like, man, this is happening to me again. So I had an abortion. And at that point of my life, I didn't trust men. I didn't trust them as far as I could see them. I got to a point to where I told myself I don't need a man. I can do bad all by myself. It got so bad to the point to where I would not even allow a man to speak to me. If I even saw he was about to move his lips and say hello, I would tell him, do not speak to me. Keep stepping, keep it moving. Don't even take time to waste your time to talk to me because I'm not going to talk to you. That I was just that angry. And then as I was looking at these poems in my journal, I realized that at the age of 29 that I had turned into the stereotypical angry black woman that people talk about. Because, you never want to believe you're that angry black woman, but I was pissed. I was broken. That was the first time in my life I had an epiphany about myself, about seeing who I really was, about really looking at me. And it was an ugly picture. I was angry. I was mad. I was hurt. I was a negative person, and I did not like what I saw. So in the midst of my epiphany, I decided that I need to learn some things from what I see here on paper in black and white. And what I did is I took 3 things away from reading my thoughts and reading what I saw as an ugly person. I said, let me change this. I don't like this person. I need to change me. I need to be a better person. I need to be a better me. So the first thing I did was I truly identified what was going on inside of me. I went back to those instances where I had unforgiveness. I made a decision. I decided to face my unforgiveness. I decided to face my hurt. I decided to face my pain. I decided to literally go back to the moment I was hurt so I could feel that pain. And then I decided, okay, I'm no longer going to allow this to control me, and I'm going to let it go. And some things came off right away. Other things took some time. The second thing I did was I accepted responsibility for not giving forgiveness. and gave forgiveness, because forgiveness was the first step to me to really getting, or I should say, actually that's the second step, but it's getting deeper inside of my spirit, even deeper inside of my soul, because I had been holding on to unforgiveness for so long until it made me an angry person. And for me, by deciding to forgive and letting all of that go, it allowed me to start healing. It allowed me to take that brokenness and heal myself. I started from a new point of literally putting myself back together again, taking the pieces, picking them up, and putting them back in place like they were supposed to be. And then the third thing I learned was to let go of that stereotypical angry black woman, because that wasn't doing nothing for me. It wasn't a good look, and it's just, I had to let it go. And when I let her go, then I was in a place to where I could truly start picking up all of the pieces, addressing all the things that was making me angry, address all the things that had me hurt, address the things that my mother said to me over the years, and just all of the different things that have happened through my childhood that brought me to the place of being such an angry person. And that helped me. Just those three things helped me to become a better person. It helped me start my journey of doing self-help. Just really self-accountability, of taking responsibility for my own feelings, not blaming everybody else, not blaming people for hurting me. It for me to literally say, okay, Rico, you can't place the blame on anybody else. You can't be angry anymore. You've got to get to a point to where you accept what happened, feel that pain, let it go, and move on. So that was like the beginning of me realizing that I was broken and really starting to put the pieces back together again in my brokenness. Now, in the military, I went in the military in 1991. And I went in the military literally to get away from Winter Haven, because the closer it got for me to go to Fort Valley State, the more my mother needed help. She needed more money. She needed money for this bill, money for that bill. And I was working, trying to save money so that I wouldn't have to work the first 6 months I was at school, because I just wanted to study. And I had gotten a partial cheerleading scholarship, and then I had grants and stuff to pay for schooling. And but my mom just kept pulling at me to help her pay bills. So finally, one day I actually went to the Air Force, and I asked them, I wanted to join the Air Force, and they were like, well, it's going to take us about a month to get you out of here. And I was like, that's not fast enough. So I left the Air Force office, and I went into the Army office. And I told the guy what I wanted to do, and he said, well, we have 2 jobs, and we can have you out of here in 2 weeks. He said, you can either be a cook or a pharmacy technician. I was like, I don't want to be a cook. I want to be a pharmacy technician. So went back to school, got my transcript, showed that I had college algebra. Boom, took the test, I was in. 2 weeks later, I left. Being 21, going into the military, coming from a small town, not really having very much experience with men, or even being told how men will lie to you and manipulate you to get what they want out of you. It's something that's really hard on a person at that age, especially if you have no experience and you're totally green. And when I was raped, it was about 3 years after I went in, and I was actually raped by the guy who I was engaged to. And the way that it happened is that when he asked me to marry him, I was so happy. I was like, yes, 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 I'll marry you. I was so happy. And we actually went to my hometown for him to meet my grandmother, because at that point my mother had passed away. So we went home to Florida. He met my grandmother and my brother, and he asked my grandmother for my hand in marriage. Then I was like, okay, so we left there and we went to his home in Georgia. It was backwoods, Georgia. When I say backwoods, it was so backwoods to where there was not a gas station within 15 to 20 miles. There was no bus station within 15 to 20 miles. It was literally in the boonies. So, got there, and my grandmother had told me, she said, many years before I'd even went into the military, she says, Regal, you have to be careful who you tie yourself to. And at the time she said it, I didn't understand it. But when I got to his hometown, I understood. I realized that we were not evenly yoked. Because I saw his background. I saw where he came from, and I knew what my background was and where I came from. I realized that we were not evenly yoked. So at the moment that I realized that, I said to myself, I said, okay, when we get back to post, I'm going to break up with him because I know he's not the one. So that first night we stayed at his, I believe it was his mother's house. And we got ready for bed. I just wanted to get in the bed and go to sleep and just rest because I was tired because we had been traveling all day, and then I met all his family members. And while we were laying there, he was like, Rico, come on, let's do it. And I was like, no. He was like, come on, let's do it. I was like, no, and I turned over. He literally pestered me for a good 30 minutes. He kept nudging me and asking me, let's do it. And I'm like, no. And finally, it dawned on me, at some point, this man is not going to listen to no. And being in a place where I couldn't call nobody because cell phone didn't work because we was in the boonies. I couldn't run down the street to the corner store because it wasn't anything within 15 to 20 miles of his house. I was literally in a place where I had to make a decision because he was not going to let up and just roll over and go to sleep. And at this moment, I'm thinking to myself, I really don't know this man as well as I thought I did. And if I keep saying no, what's going to happen if he gets to a point to where he feels like I'm his and I'm gonna do what I want to do and I'm going to take it. So I just rolled over and let him do his business. And I rolled back over and I cried because I was just like, I can't do anywhere. I can't run anywhere. I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck in the woods. How did I get myself into this? I don't even know this man. Because to me, if he really loved me, he would have took no and left it alone. But he kept going. And a lot of men don't understand. No means no. It doesn't matter if you're engaged, it doesn't matter if it's your wife, it doesn't matter if it's your girlfriend. If she says no, it means no. And for me, I the rest of the time there, we got there on a Friday night. We were there all day Saturday, and we came back on Sunday. And on Sunday coming back, I literally was in the car, turned to the side, and I was crying the whole way home. And he didn't even know I was crying. This is how detached he was from me. He didn't even know I was on the other side of him, crying my eyes out. And that to me solidified everything. There was no forgiveness. There was no me. I was not turning. I'm not going to back. I wasn't going to turn back and say, well, he really didn't mean it. No, I can still marry him. No, I decided at that point, I was like, there's no turning back. I'm not going to marry this man. I'm just going to keep moving. When we get back, I'm just going to break up with him and be done with it. I never went to his superiors because being in the military as a woman, if you tell your superior that you were raped, they will do whatever they can to deter you from reporting it, one. And if you report it, you will put yourself in a place where you will get repercussions for telling. So I never told while I was in. And they've talked about it in the news today where women in the military can't really go to their superiors and say, I've been raped, because they're afraid of repercussion. And even today, and here it is, and that happened to me back in the 90s, the late 90s. It was I got back in the States in 1995. It was in 1996 that happened to me. And here it is, 2018, and it's still, the military is still like that, where women cannot go back and report what happens to them without fear of repercussion. So that's something that they're trying to change in the military. And I don't know if it ever will change because the military is the good old boys club, literally. And they pretty much feel like, and they do whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want. And it's just kind of how it happens, being in the military. I would never change being in the military because there were a lot of good things that happened to me while I was there. I learned a lot of things. I got a lot of independence. I got a lot of experiences that I would have never gotten because I got to travel to Europe. I was in Germany for 2 years. I got to travel around Germany. I got to go to Salzburg, Austria, where I actually saw the place where they filmed A Sound of Music, that's telling my age, and that's a movie that they play around Christmas time. So I actually got to travel, and a lot of good things happened to me while I was in, but also a lot of bad things happened, and that was one of the bad things that happened while I was in the service.
Well, I wanted to ask you, well, thanks for sharing everything you have. And when you got back to the service, you said you didn't report him. You did break up with him. How did he ask you why? Or did you ever share with him what you did to me was rape?
He didn't really ask why. And I think maybe in the back of his mind he knew, and I never confronted him and told him that it was rape. I think maybe maybe my coldness towards him may have alerted him that he had done something seriously wrong, but he never inquired about it. And normally, I would think, guys, when you break up with them after they done asked you to marry them, they usually inquire, and he didn't inquire. So I'm thinking in my mind that he knew he messed up, but he didn't want to hear the word rape, so he never inquired. He was like, okay. He surprisingly, it surprised me, but he didn't ask any questions.
And after this happened, you still being in the military, and I know you said this happened in the 3rd year, and you were in for 5.5 years.
Yes.
And I'm just curious to ask this question anyway. Mm-hmm. Does military offer counseling at all when things? Well, I know you said this is really set against for women to report this, but how did you deal with what you felt? I don't know if they offered counseling or you kept it within. How did you handle that?
The military does offer counseling, but the counseling is more towards soldiers who have post-traumatic stress syndrome from being in active war. So I didn't go to a counselor, but the way I dealt with it is I internalized it. After that breakup, I didn't date anybody for almost a year. I didn't really date anyone. I just kind of kept to myself because I was like, why did this happen to me? How could I allow myself to get put in a position to where I could not run? I think I beat myself up because I was angry with myself for putting myself in a position where I couldn't get out. Because literally, I couldn't go anywhere. Because I didn't know where I was. I was in the middle of Georgia, out in the woods. I was really upset with myself, and I internalized it. And it took me some years to kind of reconcile and forgive him. And the crazy thing, Facebook is a powerful tool because that joker actually Facebooked me. He actually sent me an instant message, and I'm like, is this man really sending me an instant message? And in his message, he said, "Hi, Regal, how are you?" I said, "Oh," and I sent back a message. I said, "I'm fine." And he said, "How have things been?" I said, "They've been all right." And after I sent my little message of they've been all right, I blocked him. Because I did not want him to think I wanted to have anything to do with him. So it's crazy how a man's mind work.
Sorry about that. And I know, as you said, you became that angry black woman, and then eventually, of course, you came out of that. But I want to veer off to, healing the child within and doing that. I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, and healing the child within, God gave me that about a year and a half ago. I was on speaking with my business coach, and I was telling her, I said, I know everybody has their own slogans and their thing that they do, and I was like, I really don't know how to put what I do into words. And we were just talking, and actually we were talking on the phone, and then we got off the phone because she had to do a Facebook Live. And while she was doing her Facebook Live, the whole group was talking back and forth, was really active in the chat. And I just typed into the chat line to respond to something that she said, and I said, God will heal the child within so the adult can live. And then she was like, Regal, that's it. She said, that's what you do. And what that entails is, a lot of times as adults, we do not realize that sometimes the problems that we have in our relationships, whether if it's with your mate, or if it's with loved ones, or even if it's with your friends, sometimes the hurt that you felt as a child, you can be acting it out in those relationships. Like for me, the issue with men, that stuff came from my young adult age, as a teenager, going into being a young woman. I hated men for a very long time. And that was something that I had to heal from. Being my mother telling me she wished she never would have had me. I had to go back to that moment and look at her not as my mother, but look at her as a woman, because at some point, for her to be able to say that to me, somewhere she was broken. And I had to go back and address that situation and say, wow, whatever it was she was going through had nothing to do with me, but she was broken. So that's something that I can't fix her, but I can fix me by forgiving her for saying that to me. I can fix me by letting go of that situation and knowing that it was something in her that she was dealing with that made that come out of her towards me. So you have to me, healing the child within means you have to go back to those instances in your life that caused you great pain and address those issues and face those issues and resolve those issues. Whether that means that you got to scream, whether that means you got to shout, whether that means you got to cry, or if you got to go into prayer, go into meditation, whatever it takes for you to get over that childhood hurt, you need to address it so that you can become a better person as an adult. And just like for me, when I went back and addressed those issues for myself, addressed the childhood things, it made me a lighter person. It made my personality started to change into a more positive perspective on life. And it was all because I went back and addressed that thing from my past. Because if you keep the one thing I've learned is, the more I hang on to the bad things that happened to me in my past, it will hold me back from my present and hold me back from my future. So in order for me to be able to be the servant that I'm supposed to be to my tribe, I have to address those things, resolve them, let them go, learn from them, take nuggets from those instances in my life, learn from them, and give those nuggets to other people so that they're able to go back and address their issues and become a better person, to become more positive, to be lighter. Because I can honestly say, when I looked in the mirror after I let that stuff go, my complexion changed. It was like literally a weight had been lifted off of my shoulder. So healing the child within really affects you as an adult, because all of that negative energy, it builds up in your system and it can hold you down. So by addressing that, recognizing it, dealing with it, and letting it go, as an adult, it makes you a better person. It makes you a happier person. So that's my goal. That's what I wanted. I want to be able to inspire people to really go back and take that hard look at their life and say, where and what is holding me back from moving forward.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. And I just think I like what you said. I never thought about that. Once you release things, you said your complexion changed, but I guess I think that would be true. That you feel lighter, you feel better, you have peace, and when you let those things go. And why do you think it's hard? Do you think it's hard for us to go look at our childhood and face it because we're afraid? Why do you think, let's say for women, would be afraid to take a hard look at, the childhood and healing, looking at what we've experienced and dealing with those things?
I think what makes it hard is sometimes you don't want to believe that it happened. Sometimes you don't want to face what happened to you. Sometimes you don't really want to truly say, wow, that happened to me? Nah, that didn't happen to me. And it's like, for me, there was something that happened last year with my family, and that I'm going to eventually come out and talk about. I'm not quite ready to talk about the incident itself, but for over 20 years, I would get from my aunts and cousins, when you going to have some kids? When you going to get married? What you waiting on? It was almost like it was something wrong with me. And for over 20 years, I just kind of like brushed it off. I didn't face it. I didn't address it with them. And when you don't address your past, it will continue to manifest in your present. And if you let it, it will manifest in your future. Because it literally is a mindset. And see, for me, for years, I used to feel guilty about not having no kids and not having no husband. Even though I was happy in my life, even though I was happy that I really don't have any responsibilities but me and my two little kitty cats. But I used to feel guilty because, they tell you growing up, you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to have the house and the picket fence and the dog, and that's just what society tells you. And I am completely not what society wants or expects for me to have done by now. And when I addressed that thing of over 20 years with my aunt, I addressed it in an 8-page letter. I let it go. And when I did that, there was a freedom in it. But I was afraid. For me, it was fear. I was afraid of confronting, because in my family, they didn't really don't confront issues. They just kind of brush over them, let bygones be bygones, don't worry about it, just move on. Don't address what happened. They just say, okay, it happened, you can't do nothing about it, you can't change it, so you might as well move on. Don't need to talk about it no more, just let it go. No, we need to talk about this thing. We need to come to some type of resolution so it don't happen again. And because I never addressed them bragging me about not having kids, not getting married, it kept coming at me. I haven't heard it anymore since I addressed it. I'm good now. I haven't heard a peep. Because now they know, okay, Regal is doing something else. Right now her life really can't really handle kids and a husband right now. Because there's one thing that my grandmother told me before I went in the military, which I'm so glad she said to me. She said, Regal, please do everything that you think that you're big and bad enough to do before you get married and have kids. She said, because the moment you get married and have kids, your life is no longer your own. And I looked at her, I was like, okay, Grandma, I'm going to do that. And I'm so glad that I did, because me finding literally over the last couple of years, I found myself. I found who Regal is about. I found my authentic self. I found, and I'm healing. The broken part of me is no longer broken. I'm still address issues that I have, but the fact that I'm in such a good place now, I'm I want to say I'm ready for a relationship because I'm in a pretty good place now. Whereas before, my headspace wasn't in the right space to have no husband, not even have a man. I wasn't in the right. To me, now that I've learned about myself and learned that I needed to forgive and let go and address my issues, if I would have never addressed those things, there would not be room for a man to come in my life. And addressing those issues is making room for someone to come in my life, and the right type of person to come in my life, someone with good energy, someone who has the same beliefs that I have, someone who is on the same level that I am, versus just taking anything that come along. So in doing this process of healing the child within so the adult can live, it's also so that you can attract the right people, whether if it's your mate or if it's friends, into being able to heal that child will literally open up everything in your life positive to come into your life. So, and a lot of people don't understand that. So for me, that's kind of where I am, and you have to be able to. I got over the fear. I'm not afraid anymore. I've learned to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries too. So it's a process. But a lot of people don't address those things because they're afraid of them, because they don't want to face them. They don't know how people are going to react when they do want to address, and that keeps them from addressing issues and facing things. And sometimes they just don't want to be bothered. They're happy in the space that they're in. They may just be happy because some people just want to go to work, come home, go to work, come home, do my errands, take care of the kids. They good. They don't want to deal with that stuff. They're happy with their life where it is. But if you're that person who wants to do more with your life, then you will address those things so that you can move forward.
Thank you so much. I was going to ask you one last question. What is like the first thing for women to heal the child within? What is the first step?
The first step is realizing your true identity. You have to see yourself first. Because if I wouldn't have had that moment of clarity of who I was, I would have never gotten to this point. Because the thing is I had to really see me. Because at the point that I was writing my poetry, I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I didn't think I was a negative person. I didn't think my stuff stank. I thought I was fine. I was happy where I was. I didn't have to worry about no stanky man bothering me. To me, at that point in my life, I was in a good place. And it wasn't until I read the words on the paper, I realized that I was not in a good place. And it took me allowing God to show me me. See, there's one thing about God. He will show you who you are. Whether if you're in prayer or if you're just sitting down having a nice lunch, writing like I was, writing poetry. Because I was praying every day, and I would ask God, show me me. Whatever it is in me that you don't want in me, take that thing out of me and show me what it is that needs to be changed. I was asking him this. Even though I thought nothing was wrong with me, I still asked the question because I know he's God. He sees everything. He knows everything. And literally, when I read the words on that paper, that day God showed me myself. And I was in a place where I was ready to receive what I saw. Because I had read those poems over and over and over again before that particular day. I think I was sitting in the subway. Before that day sitting in the subway, I had been reading those poems, just reading over them thinking, oh, that's pretty good. I go back and change a word. That's pretty good. But I was just reading them. I wasn't perceiving them. My perception changed that day that I sat down and I read the entire it was about, I think it was probably, at that point, it was probably about 15 poems that I had written. And when I sat and really read them and really perceived what I was saying on the paper, and I was able to see it and understand it, that's when my eyes were opened. But God had been preparing me to see what I had been asking for. Because I honestly didn't think nothing was wrong with me until I saw that paper. I really saw the paper.
Well, that's awesome. I thank you for that tip, because that's important that, we have to really be honest and look at ourselves, and then allow God to show us who we are. So I thank you for coming on this evening and sharing your story. And honestly, for me, I always wonder about the military, about just a whole bunch of things. So this was very great that you shared, what happened, but also how the military views this type of, what women go through, whether it's domestic violence, all that. And I'm sure they're the same thing about that. If, there's, if you're married in the military and there's domestic violence, they probably try to keep that under wraps as well.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So thank you for sharing that. And also really talking about how to heal the child within as well, and sharing your story of just what you've been through and your brokenness and just how you overcome that. And thank you again. I'm going to think about that and think about when you talk about when you release things, like something within you has to change that's not saying physical, but then it ends up like maybe you have a different type of glow. Mm-hmm. So I thank you again, and please share with the listeners how they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Regal T. Cameron, and on Twitter at Regal's Gems. You can also go to my website at www.regalcameron.com. I also have I have a couple of books. I have my very first book, which is Divine Intervention, a daily devotional inspired by the Holy Spirit. And I also have a devotional journal to go along with it, where it actually has, what I did is I took the questions out of the book and I turned them into a journal, and I asked a few more questions in the journal so that you can dig deeper into finding out whatever it is that you're reading for that day, to dig deeper into that thing. And that is on my website, and also on Amazon.com. I will be coming out with a new book in March. My deadline is the 31st. I hope I get to my deadline, but if not, I'll just move it a couple of weeks and I'll still have it. I hope it will be out by no later than the second quarter of this year. And that book is called The Mask Behind My Beauty, a story of triumph and being my own rescue. I have the release date for March 31st of this year. And I'm also going to be coming out with a couple of courses, 7 Steps to Forgiveness and 6 Steps to Breaking Brokenness, Healing the Child Within so the adult can live. And I'm really, really busy here, and I'm going to be launching hopefully towards the end of February. I have 2 new businesses that I'm adding to my business, because we have to have those multiple streams of income, which is Gems Coaching, where it's my coaching business, and I'll have 4 packages for people who want to be coached and want to meet their goals. And then also Cameron Virtual Assistant Consulting, where I will be doing social media management, graphic design, I'll be doing ebooks. If you want to get your ebook published, I can format it for you. Whatever you need as far as getting it on Amazon, Kindle, Amazon. Excuse me. So that's the list of things that I have going on right now.
Well, thank you. That's a lot, and I'm going to be checking you out, especially just to see your courses and your book. And I love the title of that, so I'm definitely going to make sure. Well, it's not true that you just posted and notified that March 31st it's debut. Okay. And I'm excited for you, and thank you again for being on this evening and sharing your story.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
And you have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.